I'm Lydia Hyslop. I am a board member at Cucalorus Film Festival and longtime Cucalorian. I am here today with writer-director Onur Tukel. We are going to talk about a very fun film that was released in 2001, filmed in Wilmington, I believe. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. Ding-a-ling-less.
Ding-a-ling-less. There it is. The birdhouse and the phallic birdhouse, without a doubt. Yeah.
Ding-a-ling-less is screening August 1st. That's next Friday at 7:30 p.m. at Jengo's Playhouse in Wilmington. And I recently had the pleasure of watching this film. The logline is left without a penis after an accident at birth. A man discovers a doctor who can do a transplant. Now, that leaves a lot to the imagination, but we've got the premise straight out the gate. So, my first question for you is how did you land on this premise? What made you wake up one day and say, this is the movie I have to make?
I mean, growing up, like with all my friends, we were always making cock jokes and dick jokes. I still do, you know what I mean? And so comedy was just, I loved comedy, making comedy, and a lot of the movies that I watched growing up, just I would remember specific things related to the penis, you know what I mean? Like I saw the movie Porky's. Do you remember the movie Porky's in the 80s?
Yes.
There's this great scene in the movie where it's kind of like now in the wake of Me Too, it's a creepy scene where the high schoolers are spying on the women through the little hole in the wall while they're taking a shower, and then one of the guys actually puts his penis in there to taunt one of the girls, and then one of the girls then the gym teacher grabs it and yanks it, and like those are the things that like in my memory growing up were just outrageous and insane. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of a part of my fabric DNA, cultural DNA, personality. I guess that part of my identity is wrapped up in. That's not true. I'm not defined by my penis. I mean, but I got anyway. That. But I think to be very succinct is. I was trying to get a movie made about a year before, and I was dating, and it was with a woman who and the movie fell apart, and I felt I think I felt like castigated. I mean, because it was a movie, it was a drama, it was very different than anything I was going to make. And when the movie fell apart, I kind of felt like, I don't know, I always tell the story, castigated by the whole thing. Like I felt like, oh, I was severed. I was so ready to make this film. I've had so many films fall apart, but then you feel like a sense of, you lose a limb in a way, you know what I mean? It also goes, so it goes. I mean, if we want to get Freudian about it, I mean, there's the fear of castration. There's always the fear of, like, anyway, whatever. I don't really know, Lydia. I don't really
But
know where the
I like
idea
where
came.
you're going. I really
Yeah,
like where you're going. I was thinking some Freudian things as
yeah.
you were speaking, but I know that feeling. I think any filmmaker can relate to that sort of, devastation. When you have to put a film on the back burner and it doesn't quite work out. Yeah, that requires a lot of self-reflection.
And Jack, the character in the movie, he's kind of resigned with a life without a penis. He understands he's not going to. But when he finds out he's going to get a penis, there's this feeling of hope. He gets really excited. I feel the same way when I'm going to get a movie made, or I feel like a film's going to get made. And then when he finds out, oh, it's not going to happen, he's not going to get the penis, then he changes. He becomes really dark, and he becomes, he's devastated by the whole thing. So I think I worked that into the script based on, the idea of like trying to get a film off the ground and not being able to, and feeling really bad about it or whatnot. So
Well,
yeah.
I do feel that, despite the on paper kind of like absurd premise, if you just read the log line and thought, what is this? There is so much heart in this movie, and the jokes, I loved how your sensibility as a director and a writer, how you weren't like beating anyone over the head with these jokes. They were very quick. It's endless opportunities for humor in this movie. And I just loved how there was so much heart. And that main character, man, that actor, Kirk Wilson, is that his
Yeah,
name?
Kirk Wilson, yeah.
He was just so great and so likable. Just very endearing, very earnest. I love how you played the earnestness of his situation. Can you talk about the casting, how you found him and how you found Robert Longstreet? How did all that come together?
Yeah, Kirk and I have been friends since we were 4 or 5 years old. He's from
Oh,
my hometown
wow.
of Taylorsville. Yeah, for sure. And we've been friends for, since then, very close friends since then. Still remain very, very close friends. And he was acting at the time. My first two movies before Ding-a-ling-less that I made in Wilmington, House of Pancakes and Sergio Lapel's Drawing Blood. Kirk was the star of those movies, you know?
Ah,
I mean, you want to collaborate with someone that you have your own language with, that you feel comfortable with, that you feel confident with. So Kirk, I love Kirk, and I want to, he hasn't acted in maybe a decade and a half. So hopefully going to get him back on doing that. I will say really quickly before I go into Robert Longstreet is a lot of people will say about the movie that it's a 90-minute one joke movie. It's just one it's an 80-minute string of dick jokes, and I think it's so much more than that. You know what I mean? People would say it's a one joke movie, but the heart of it that you talk about is what really people do love about the film is that it is a really sweet story about really a love story between Jack and the girl that he's in love with, but also Jack and the Alan character, which is played by Robert Longstreet. I met Robert at the Cucalorus Film Festival about a year before we shot. We shot this movie in the winter of 2000, right? 25 years ago. It'll be 25 years ago. December of 2000, I met him at the 2019 Cucalorus Film Festival. He was there with a movie called The Week That Girl Died. And I met him there, instantly loved him. He was fantastic. We still remain amazing friends and whatnot. So I was just lucky that I was in the right place at the right time meeting Robert. When he showed The Week That Girl Died, I'd seen a string of short films before, and I was like, oh, there's a feature film coming on next. Do I want to stay and watch this? And I gave the movie about 5 minutes, and then I loved it so much I stayed. He did the Q&A. He was so charming, instant friends, and we remained really close friends. Mark Robinson's in this movie as well. He plays the doctor, Dr. Skinner, and he's
oh.
fantastic. I mean, a lot of people in Wilmington remember and know Mark and regard him with so much respect. So
I love the right place, right time
yeah,
kismet of it all. Did you
yeah.
I mean, the whole cast was fantastic though. Like, did you just cast everyone yourself or did you work with the casting director?
No, I just watched the movie again recently, and there's some clunky acting in it, but it's like a lot of outsiders who aren't some of the smaller roles or whatnot. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily professional actors, and they seem a little maybe wooden or unprofessional at times, but I'm okay with that. I like that because it's a kind of a cult movie, and it's like a fun fantasy type of like sexual comedy. So if it's not really grounded in authentic performance, I'm okay with that. But I think most of the performances are really kind of really real. And I think that's what makes it kind of special is you've got all this absurd, insane dialogue. I kind of like it almost like I try to invent like new terminology and new kind of ways to like say the nomenclature of the penis and whatnot. But no, short answer, no, we did not use a casting director, just friends. We did audition, we did an audition process. So I auditioned, dozens and dozens of people in Wilmington. I looked for a really long time for Alan, who to play Alan. After I met Robert, we were in touch, but he lived in LA and he was going back and forth. Or did he live in Wilmington? We just lost touch with each other. And I was trying to find the right Alan. And then out of the blue one day, he called me and it was like, oh my God. Robert Longstreet, he's Alan, obviously. But no, we didn't use a casting director. I would always use a casting director if I could afford it and have the money. It's so
Yeah.
valuable. So,
What
but
was
we
the
didn't.
budget for this film?
The budget was we got it, we shot it, got it in the can, and all the we shot on 35 millimeter film. We shot on short ends, which was like I could talk about that for an hour, but 75,000 is what we shot and edited and made it for,
That's
and
crazy. Like
pretty crazy.
how did you do it? How was that possible?
Well, it's because of Les Frank, the producer of the movie, Frank, who lived in Wilmington at the time. It was just a magic trick. He pulled together this amazing crew of people, the amazing photographer Sean Llewellyn, the amazing sound person Tim Cargioli, the costumer. Everybody was so great, and he wasn't just the producer; he was the unit production manager. He was the line producer. He did so much, and then, of course, it was just I have to credit Les Frank. He really made it happen. I was prepared to make the movie with a little digital camera, all these little kind of digital cameras. I won't call them crappy because I thought you could make some really cool, aesthetically interesting things then. But I don't think this movie would have worked if it would have looked kind of janky or gnarly. We all wanted it to be really beautiful. And, you know, Sean and I talked about it, the color scheme. We wanted it to be really kind of an autumn kind of color scheme. You know, even though we shot in the winter, we wanted it to feel like it was autumn and like and just warmth, colors. And I just have to credit those guys. They're all so brilliant. And, you know, I did my work. I storyboarded everything. I worked really hard for the actors. It was my third movie. I thought it was my big opportunity. And but it's the Les Franck. It's his movie as much as it is mine, and I've never given him the credit he deserves for that, and that will never happen again. I feel like it's his movie as much as mine, you know. So
Well, I love that. I love the vibe of, this is indie filmmaking. This
yeah.
is everyone's wearing many hats. There was something I really loved about the movie. I can't quite figure out how to quantify this, but it felt nostalgic to me watching it. Like I don't know if I was nostalgic for like the Y2K era necessarily,
Hmm.
or if it was Y2K filmmaking. I don't know. There was just something there was a vibe I was getting as I was watching it that I was like, oh, the good old days, you know?
Yeah, you
And
know,
maybe
it's
that might be the 35 millimeter film aspect too.
and not just that, you know, the 35 millimeter, I think definitely comes into play there, but we really designed the shots to make it look like a really big budget movie. You know what I mean? We went out of our way to say, look, let's not just do basic coverage of close-ups and wide shots. Let's really design amazing shots. And again, back to Les Frank pulling in like the dollies and the cranes and just the jibs and all the hardware that we had, and also the expertise behind Sean Llewellyn and his crew to make it really feel like it had cinematic language. You know, and I feel like I watch movies from the 90s and the early aughts that were shot on film that I dismissed and thought that was a crappy movie. I don't want to watch that. But then you watch them and they're made in a specific style with a certain visual language that you don't really see as much anymore because things are shot digitally and things are shot multi-camera. Even my own films, I have to say, it's like I abandoned kind of the cinematic aspect of film long ago because it was just easier and faster and cheaper to work digitally with multi-cameras. Faster, definitely, and that's the biggest thing is time is the most valuable resource on a film set. But I'll think nostalgia too because of the innocence of it. You know, Jack is so innocent, and that was before 9/11. I think kind of the world changed before after 9/11. My
Yeah.
work became a little more political after 9/11. I felt like it was hard to just be able to make something or write something without that looming. For me, it was the war in Iraq that changed me, radicalized me in a way that I've been trying to detach myself from ever since because I don't know, films is escapism. Not all films have to be political, you know. And I think there's just something kind of beautiful about that. The naivete of Jack and also his womanizing friend, you know what I mean, who by the end does change and realize the way I've treated women was wrong, and I love that aspect. I think in the sense of Me Too, where we are with Me Too and the consciousness of treating women, it's aged very well in that regard, you know. So
Yeah, his Longstreet's character had a real awakening.
yeah, no, for sure, of
But yeah,
course.
you're right. It's like there's something really endearing about that Jack character, and like I love that you go ahead and give away the premise. Like you don't go into this movie not really knowing what's going on. It's called Ding-a-ling-less. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's Ding-a-ling-less. We get it. But it's not just like, oh, how funny is this? How funny is that? It's like, there's this saying, I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but comedy is just tragedy like to the 10th degree or something, where it's like
Hmm.
you up the stakes a billion percent. So these, his problems are real. Like this is a tragedy, but it's like so genuine, over the top that it all works, And I would like to say kudos to you on a writing directing front for, you know, not discrediting your audience, and you don't like dwell on the jokes are in the writing and you just keep going. It's very fast paced. It's super fun to watch. There were a couple moments where I laughed out loud. I loved the restaurant scenes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about like that vision? I don't want to give too much away. We'll just that was my main the part that sticks with me, like the framing and just it almost felt like a theater production, you know, the way the background and the foreground characters. I
Hmm.
loved it. I loved it.
Well, you mean the cafe scenes where it's Robert Allen talking, or the actual restaurant scene where his little smart cock device malfunctions?
Well, they were both memorable, but I was more referring to the cafe scenes, just
Yeah,
like the
the
way those were framed.
yeah, that those scenes are terrific. I mean, that those are the scenes that have basic coverage. Close up of Robert, close up of Kirk playing Jack, and then the waiters coming in and out. I don't know. I mean, we just shot those basic scenes. I wanted to have those scenes defined by the intimacy between Alan and Jack, because this is Alan's telling Jack, "Hey, there's a doctor who can save your life." And this is the first time Alan finds out that Jack, who always has a facade of happiness, he's always pretending to be happy. When he admits to Alan for the first time, "I'm miserable inside. I'm pretending to be happy, but I'm miserable because I really can't live the life I want to live." I mean, it speaks to like the beauty of Jack is he builds birdhouses, and I think the idea, it's not just phallic, and it's not the joke of him just building a birdhouse. It's the idea that birds will come here and congregate. Yeah, there it is. That they will go there and maybe even start a family and have a family in the. It's like a nest in a way. He's building like a nest for birds. So the idea that this is what he wants, this is what he's longing for, so to speak. No pun intended. Maybe intended. I don't know. So, but yeah, the cafe scenes were. I don't remember anything extraordinary. Well, there's the one scene in the cafe where Alan and Jack are talking about all the wonderful things he's going to be able to do now that he has a penis. And then you have all the other like patrons in the cafe suggesting ideas. Now that scene, it's a little bit, there's some of the acting is a little wooden from some of the actors in the background. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I think you were.
Honestly, I love that scene.
Yeah, okay, so
I
that's what you're.
loved all those actors. I was
Yeah, okay. I
I
like
want to
that.
know who these people are.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot too, because I think and the structure of the scene is really, really funny. It's really, really clever. And I think, the it's a oneer. It's like a 2 minute scene and it's a oneer. And then everybody's timing is really, really good. Some of the acting is it's not necessarily professional, but yeah, I really like that scene. And it is staged theatrically. It is staged like this tableau of like, of deep space where there's a lot of things happening. Yeah, I enjoy it. That was kind of tricky to do and tough to do. And I remember at times some people would, because you got to get it right. If somebody botches a line, you got to start over. And a couple of actors did mess up their lines, and they got really, really nervous. And I learned it was I remember learning a very valuable lesson as a director, which is if somebody screws up, especially somebody who's not hugely a professional actor and is not used to screwing up, they could if they get nervous, they're going to get even worse. So your job as a director is to placate the situation and make everyone feel really, really relaxed. And I used to have more of a temper, and I would be kind of impatient, and I'd get angry if things didn't work out. It would learn right at that moment, like, no, this is we're having fun, we're making a film. And if you make this actor even more nervous, they're gonna keep botching the line possibly. So yeah, I really like that scene. The cafe scenes were fun. That scene especially. I was watching it today. I haven't watched it in a few years, and I was watching it today, and that scenes that I didn't like initially, I didn't like as much. I liked a lot more, like, this time around. And then there were some things that I used to think were so funny that I don't think are as funny anymore. And they're a little cringy, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I think the thing is, sticking with the movie, you see that the movie does have so much heart and so much love for the characters and for, what it's trying to do. So,
Yeah, and honestly, like I think if it were played in a different direction, it would be cringy, but
yeah.
it's just very you stuck with the genuine the character and just honestly it all worked and it has that there is this nostalgia about it. So, where I'm gonna just ask you one more question and then we'll
Yeah.
wrap for today. But did you score this movie?
I scored the stuff that's synthesizer and piano and stuff like that. Yeah, I did. I did score that kind of sprightly little theme of the movie. Yeah, I did, and I love scoring. I love playing music, and I've got a lot of compliments on the score of the movie. I don't have quite the nerve that I used to have to try to score things. Plus, I have amazing people that score for me. But I think I might get back into scoring again. Yeah, I really do like the score. I think it fits. I don't know. I've been told it fits the kind of low the aesthetics of the movie in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
It's quirky. It's see, I love a less is more score.
hmm
I love a like an air organ or just
yeah,
something real like in Punch Drunk Love when it's like that air organ and
yeah, for
mm,
sure.
it's just something really I think it also just plays into my love of the nostalgia for
Yeah. Well,
Ding-a-ling-less.
I love scores with personality. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the personality of a score, I don't know, it brings me in. It makes me feel like, it's like talking, like the movie itself has a soul in a way. You know what I mean? But there's also really, really great music from William Paco Strickland, who's passed, but he did flamenco guitar, and we used some of his music. We used a guy named Bob Pence's kind of weird, the more instrumental or course or orchestral kind of stuff that's kind of weird and kind of bizarre. That's Bob Pence, who's fucking brilliant. But the stuff that's it sounds like it was made on a kind of a synthesizer, a cheap synthesizer. That was me that did that part of the score. So
Well,
I
I love
appreciate you mentioning that.
no,
So,
I loved it. I have an ear for like a I don't know, I just like a little DIY lo-fi.
well, you're a musician singer yourself, right? And your family, your
Well,
parents
a
are.
little bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I dabble. But I really enjoyed that little detail. And on that note, I don't want to give anything else away. If you are in Wilmington, please go see Ding-a-ling-less Friday, August 1st at 7:30 p.m. at Jengo's Playhouse. You can buy a ticket in advance online at jingos.eventive.org. And if you are so lucky to attend the screening, writer, director, also editor, and some of the score composer, Onur Tukel will be there for a Q&A after the screening
I'm
Friday.
looking forward to it. Thanks, Lydia. I'm really
Thank
excited
you
about
so
it.